Hello, I'm Laura Furiosi, divorced mother of 3, and I'm here with my mother, Lynette Galvin, with 35 years' experience in family law. You're listening to the Divorce Course podcast. Through our candid discussions, we hope to help you through your divorce or de facto separation. We will be answering the most commonly asked questions and covering the stages and steps that you will face on your way to freedom. Are you currently in what we call divorce limbo, where maybe you've been separated for a while now, maybe 2 months, 3 months, 3 years, and nothing has been sorted? Well, this episode is for you. Today we're going to be talking about how you can help yourself if you're stuck in divorce limbo, what it is, and what the legal implications are if you keep leaving it to just drift. So thank you, Mum, for coming along.
Hello,
Welcome.
Laura. Hi, everyone.
Now, today, Mum, we're going to talk about that lovely thing that happens to a lot of people called divorce limbo. And I know you've mentioned before that sometimes you'll see a client, 2 years after they've separated.
Sometimes 8 years.
So,
sometimes longer.
So
yeah.
Can you give me a legal definition? Like, I know there's no such thing as a legal definition, but in lawyer speak or the lawyer's world, what does divorce limbo look like?
Well, divorce limbo looks like where everything is pretty much the same as it was the day one of you left and split up. No one's filed for the divorce, so the marriage isn't over. You can't marry anyone else. And everything's kind of a bit on an ad hoc basis or unspoken basis. And you're just really just drifting along. No one wants to rock the boat, or you're scared to rock the boat.
So your properties, not really,
the kids
still
are just going.
each other's names.
Yeah, the kids just going ad hoc. You might still be in a house that's in joint names. It's never been transferred. The mortgage might be in joint names, and you're both still paying it, or you're paying it, but it's not in your name only. The kids. We have to keep making arrangements for them every Christmas. What are you doing this year? What are you doing this year? Next year? How are we going to handle this? It takes up a lot of brain space. It's like it's always in the back of your mind, and it means you don't have a routine and you can't see where you're going.
And I guess if you've separated, but you're still technically financially together and parenting kind of ad hocly, you haven't really separated.
No, well, you're still living.
You haven't really. You're not enjoying the benefits of.
Yeah, you're living
on.
your old life, just with mildly less aggravation, probably, but not having it written down, not having it solved, it takes up a lot of brain space. And I find people have it in the back of their minds all the time. So if you're in a house that's still in joint names and it needs a repair, do you think, should I get that done, or is it, should he pay some for it? It just keeps you in connection.
And we get so many messages from people. I think we had one the other day where she didn't know whether she should pay the bills, like whether they should divide them in half, or she was really upset about that. And I guess if they had worked through and done their property settlement and their parenting plan, she wouldn't be worrying about each month when knowing who's going to pay what bill.
Because, of course, we talk about in the divorce course, we talk about that very short-term arrangements that you do, like the first days after you separate, and then we talk about interim arrangements that might be like the 3 to 6 months. But then you really do need to move on because those two sets of arrangements are really just a holding pattern so that everyone can catch their breath and have food on the table and a roof over their heads. But it's not moving into your new life. And it's tying you down. It's quite bad emotionally for people, I think.
And I think I get, divorce, separation, all of that is quite taxing mentally, and maybe some people just want to deal with that first. And we've talked about that before, where some people might just want to deal with the breakup and get through that, then work on property, etc. But what is the downside to kind of separating, moving on, but keeping everything still unofficially sorted out?
Yeah.
What's the downside in the legal world to staying in divorce limbo?
It doesn't give either party closure. So if one of you holds some hope, perhaps, of the marriage getting back together again or the relationship back on track, having still owning a house together or still renting together or still, it kind of doesn't make it real for people, so they can hold on to what really is a false hope. And so that's very bad for people. Also, and this is a worry at the moment, house prices, if you're hoping to buy the house or buy something, the house prices have gone up like crazy. You've got to find more and more money to buy out your partner. Also, there might be opportunities in a divorce limbo for a person to make sure they don't do any saving so they don't have to share it with you, or don't put any extra into super. It's just you're actually quite reactive rather than proactive, stepping forward into your life. And I had someone say once, a professor at a lecture we were at, and he said, everybody knows the relationship's not over until the house is sold, or the house is dealt with, or you've got to start doing these functional things for your own sake. But the court also, from a court point of view, the longer you leave it, the more complicated a property settlement will be, because the court looks at what's happened since separation, and they have to analyse contributions by each of you. And if it's a long time since separation, then the contributions post-separation are going to be massive and correspondingly more difficult to negotiate. And people forget as well, writing down the history, they forget what's happened. It's just...
And it's really, we've mentioned this before, and if you're interested, the property settlements, the second part in the 3-part series where we talk
in
about
our podcast,
financial contributions after separation, if you'd like to listen to that, so you can understand that. And there's some things that maybe people don't know. The money that you save and earn, we've had members in our DIY Divorce Blueprint course who didn't know until they did our course, the money I'm saving up, because we haven't had a property settlement yet, that money is going to be included in the property pool. So if you're working really hard to do up a house that you've bought after separation, that still has to be considered in the property pool. So you want to have a definite line in the ground. Yes, separation felt like the line for you. We've separated. Maybe you've started dating other people. Maybe, all these things have changed in that regard. But when it comes to the legal aspects, if there's no line... then
it's not over.
You really are making yourself more work than you already needed. Whereas if people were somehow miraculously able to sort out their property and their parenting agreements straight after separation, there would be
very
way
clean.
less trouble because it's very clean. So because it takes into consideration what you've got in your bank account as of that day, what have you got in your super, what have you got in this, and that may be, if you're in divorce limbo and you're 3 years down the track,
things change.
3 years worth
That's
of
right.
super.
And from the court's point of view, property settlement, you might think, we're amicable, we're doing this. I've already got the house, I've paid him some money. No, it's not over until it's over, either till there's a court order, whether it's by consent or at the end of a hearing, or there's a binding, they used to call them binding, a financial agreement signed by you both that finalises. So from the court's point of view, as long as, if you're a de facto couple, you must bring your property settlement within 2 years of separation. And if you leave it the whole 2 years, there's always, in my experience, an argument about whether it was, but it was March, not September, and you're out of time that we got together. Or we got separated. So there's an argument about the date of separation if you leave it. If you're a married person, if you get a divorce, that is just that breaking the marriage so that you can remarry, that divorce process is quite separate to property settlement and children. If you have a divorce, you've only got 12 months from the date that divorce becomes final to bring your property settlement application in the court. Otherwise, you've missed the boat. And so...
Which means, when you mean miss the boat, means the court can't make orders after a year.
That's right. They're not... You would have to ask permission for them, ask them to allow you to bring your application out of time, which isn't always given, and in fact hardly ever given. So you've missed the boat. So then you're stuck with whatever the property is in whose name. So if you've got half a house, that's yours. If the car you're driving's in the other person's name, that's theirs. And that's tricky. And even if they agreed to transfer things, you would have to pay stamp duty because it's not pursuant to a consent order or a financial agreement.
I think that's a positive, at least out of a property settlement or agreement or what orders, if you are transferring names of things and you don't have to pay stamp duty because it's a separation, that's a great thing. I guess that's a positive for this. But remembering, it's and a lot of people go, well, I'll get the divorce because that's the piece of paper, which means I can remarry, which is great. But if you don't finalise everything else, it can incorporate your new partner's money into this. Like if you buy a house with a new partner. Kind of.
So you've only got that year, general advice only, but you've only got that year, and you have to talk to a lawyer about if you're more than a year since you're divorced. So I don't like to do the divorce before I've got property settlement sorted, because if you don't get a divorce, then you can have property settlement 20 years down the track. But yes, so strictly speaking, your partner's money doesn't come into account. But of course, if you've gone and built a new life with someone, bought a house together, then suddenly your interest in the house is a part of the property pool. It's not your ex's, not your new partner's interest, but your interest. And that makes everyone very upset and nervous. And it's just untidy.
Well, it's keeping the ground unsteady, and I guess you're not knowing for certain what your future holds. What would you say to those, and we have lots of listeners who write in, they've just been sitting in this divorce limbo, they're too afraid to do anything because they don't want to upset the what's happening, because maybe they don't make money and their ex-husband does, and they're giving them a bit of money every week so that they can live, or maybe they're paying their rent for them in a new place so they can live. What do you say to those people who are like, well, I just want to live in this house and get that money, and I don't want to upset it because what if he cuts me off? What will I do? I can't move on.
You're walking on eggshells all the time, and you are being controlled by that person. And you're getting that money from the other person. They're doing it as a kind of grace and favour to you, but reality, you have ownership. You have entitlements. And if they've somehow convinced you that they're being generous, they're wrong. Now, I understand that it's important that every month your rent gets paid, or your mortgage, and you need food and stuff, but it's a little bit nerve-wracking because... I talk about the Tarzan principle, Laura, where if you're hanging on to one vine and swinging, don't let go of the first one till you've got a hold of the second one. But this is one occasion where you may have to jump. But the court has remedies. So if you can save up a little bit, perhaps get the banks to hold off on repayments for a month or two so you can negotiate. And then if they do refuse to give you the money, you can go to court for an order that they continue to give you the money while property settlement gets sorted out. And you will breathe easier. If you've got an order like that, you might not have money to go to court. That would also be find someone who will allow either do it at a lower cost or perhaps even speculate on it and not charge you until they get into court and get that lump sum from the other person. So if you don't have much power, and I understand that, and you're concerned about the children, and maybe the other person's convinced you that they're doing such a lovely, kind thing, but actually go and talk to a lawyer and get ready and do that brave thing and jump and get out of that relationship. Sometimes it's done out of kindness, Laura, but sometimes it's a manipulative and controlling thing. And you're still in that web.
Well, we had a listener write in recently, and I cannot find it because we have so many different ways they write in, so you'll have to forgive me for not being able to find the exact question, but she's kind of living in that limbo, and one of the things that's happening is she's realised that her ex isn't renting out their holiday home anymore to reduce his income. So I guess in this limbo world, one of the other things that can happen is if you're blissfully living in limbo thinking everything's going to be great, your ex might actually not be in limbo. They might be working the system, knowing the rules and going, okay, well, if I reduce my income and if I make everything seem less amazing, I won't have to pay as much if she does go for property settlement.
I deplete what money there is in the account. I'm going overseas and having holidays. I'm gambling. I'm living my very best life to make sure that any money that I've got in my name is spent, and my credit cards are up to the max. So sometimes those things get found out and the court takes them into account, but sometimes they don't. So you may be giving the other person a head start and an opportunity to set themselves up so that they can present a certain way to court. I always remember, Laura, years ago, my client's partner was a developer. A developer, yes, and lots of rental properties. And they would live on the rent from all of these houses. And this fellow turned up for mediation, and he had an old flannelette shirt on. He actually had slippers on and big baggy pants. And he was awesome. older gentleman. And she said, I can't believe it. She said, and she showed me a picture of how he normally dressed, and he was always dressed in a suit. He had a gold pinky ring and a signet ring, and he had deliberately represented himself as a poor, broken, so almost a hobo. Wow. The slippers got me. And she said, he never dresses like that. So it's just theatre to them. But yes, and this man famously pulled out 5 legal letters from 5 different lawyers, right? And he said, I've been to 5 different lawyers until I found this one. And these ones all said the same thing, but I finally found the right lawyer. And I remember the registrar said, I wonder if perhaps those 5 lawyers were correct.
Yes. But, yeah. I guess that, and maybe that's another reason why some people are in divorce limbo. Maybe they have gone to see a lawyer and
they don't like the answer. And
you'll find a lot of the ladies that write into us who maybe aren't working, or they're not working full time. Their ex is happy to let it linger because they know what the answer is going to be. So remind yourselves, if you are worried about upsetting the apple cart, that perhaps, and this is one of the things we recommend you do for the step 4 if you are stuck in divorce limbo, if you can go find out what it is that you're entitled to, it might motivate you to take that step. So, Mum, maybe we should talk about, so first step. Would you like us to take away the overwhelm of the divorce process and give you the step-by-step guide on what to do at each part of the process and show you how to do it? Even giving you the correct wording and legal templates that you can use for your property or parenting agreement? Would you like us to show you how to do your own negotiations and mediations and keep it out of court? Well, then you're invited to the DIY Divorce Blueprint Platinum and Gold membership, currently open now. It is the only training of its kind that shows you exactly how you can do your own divorce, property and children's settlements, mediations and negotiations so that you can finally move on with your life without having to spend thousands of dollars on lawyers and years in limbo. Go to www.thedivorcecourse.com.au/enroll to find out more today. Join us now. So first step is focus on it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty no-brainer. But it's basically you've got to commit yourself to sitting down and looking at it going, all right, I've got to do this.
That's right.
Is that right? That's
right.
1.
Because but no one's complaining if you don't go to court and get your stuff. So you really do have to rule off some time and make it a priority. When I make a list for a day or plan for the day, I always have one thing I plan to achieve as my one good thing that will make it a good day. You guys need to stock up on coffee and chocolate or whatever it is you need, set yourselves up and focus on it. I think take a day and say, this is the day where I'm going to do something about it and make it a priority. Sometimes people do it like for a week. If the kids are away, and you've got time off. Just
if you've got holidays, if you're doing half holidays,
do it when the kids are.
Use that other part of the holiday. But, and I understand you can be busy. You might be taking the kids to school. You might be doing help. You've got your businesses you might be running. You've got your, friendship groups. And the last thing you want to do is sit down and look at a divorce process and go, oh, okay, this is what I've got to do.
It's a project.
Literally commit, choose a date, put it on the calendar, turn your notifications off your phone, and just do it, okay? And even if that involves just coming along to one of our webinars, which we do monthly, come along and see what's involved in the process. What do I need to do? What's kind of happening? So commit yourself to a date, okay, to go and sit down and look at it. Step 2 is identify what your pain points are or your obstacles.
So why don't you want to do it?
Why aren't you doing it? Yeah. Is it because you're worried it's going to upset the apple cart? Is it because you just don't want to face it? Is it because you don't want to upset your ex? And
is it because you feel guilty for leaving and they're all sad and you don't want to make it any worse? But really what they're anticipating is probably much worse than the reality. You might, if you've got an avoidant person, you may have to do that yourself. Sometimes for people, the idea of the actual divorce goes against their faith or their principles, but you don't have to do the divorce. You can have a property settlement, and this is important. You can have a property settlement and not have a divorce. Okay, so you can sort out the property, sort out the kids, and leave the divorce. Some people never divorce. They die married.
Yeah, that's okay. Well, if that's what you want to do, then do that. So, so really, you just got to look at why am I not moving forward on this? What is holding me back? And we've already talked about, just as I said a minute ago, you probably should ask yourself the question, why are they not moving forward on this? Why is my ex not doing anything about it? And if you explore that, you might be like some of our listeners, oh, well, my ex is trying to reduce their income currently, or my ex is spending all the money that we should be separate, like splitting. So be aware, or is your ex an avoidant person and you do need to be the one who steps it up? What are the reasons? And write them down, and maybe go see a psych. Maybe say, hey, I really need your help in this aspect because I need to get this sorted and I keep coming to a roadblock.
I like it. Yeah.
Okay. And number three is a bit wishy-washy, but I do it with all my clients.
It's not wishy-washy.
In my coaching business, but and Mum, like I've got 3 on the back of my wall right now. They're not divorce ones, but write down or put a picture or just do a little story, a summary, a little vision board of what you want your life to look like
in a year.
In a year.
Can you see yourself through there? Can you see yourself finished in your own place? The kids happily going between both houses.
You don't want to have a vision board of your ex still standing over in the corner having his name on your car. You don't want to still in 5 years or 1 year be lying in bed going, my ex-partner still owns half of this house and at any point he could just rip it from under me. So you want to go, what will make me feel great? What is something that will motivate you to then get through all this yuckiness and negotiate and come to an agreement? So do
or at least visualize it and keep that image in your head if you're a bit averse to a vision board. But here's the thing: if you are worried about upsetting the apple cart by bringing court stuff, it's only a matter of time before something else happens that upsets the apple cart. And if you're lying in a house in bed, as you say, and it's half someone else's house, what if you meet the one and you bring them home? Is that when the payments are going to stop? That's right.
I'm not paying your rent anymore.
That might be your motivation.
Would you want that? Yeah. So, okay, maybe you do in your vision see yourself with a new person. If you're being drip-fed money at the moment and you're in divorce limbo, is that going to continue? Is it going to continue once you are doing that? So probably not. So that's good motivation. All right, so you've got yourself motivated. You've identified the pain points why you've held back or why they're holding back. You've decided to commit to a time to focus on it. The next most important and probably the legal part is knowing where you stand, Mum. So what do we mean by go and find out where you stand?
So find out what you're entitled to in property, whether the other person's entitled to claim, as they sometimes do, that this is not to be counted, or, you need to especially go and find out from a lawyer what your position is, your likely entitlement for property, or where what's normal for children arrangements. If the other person in your relationship has said, let's not involve lawyers. Let's not go to lawyers. You can bet your bottom dollar if you're in limbo and they've said don't go and see a lawyer, that they've seen a lawyer. And like you said, they don't like the answer or the outcome. So now you don't have to spend a lot of money to do this. You can ring up. A lot of family lawyers give 15-minute, 20-minute free phone calls. You could ring legal aid in your state. You could go and see a lawyer for an initial consultation. I think we've talked about the chronology and things that you could do, a little timeline before you go to get the most out of that. Or just research. There's lots of information now on Google.
I mean, there's 60, nearly 70 episodes of this podcast.
That's true.
That talks you through every step of every bit and the legal know-how
and that's
behind
completely free
and children's. So you could listen to that and have an idea. But definitely, if you can go and see a lawyer for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, just tell them your story, explain to maybe listen to that one thing that you can do episode that we did that talks you about how to make your meeting with a lawyer productive, so much better. But then find out from them, where do you stand? What are you entitled to? And that in itself is sometimes motivating when you have been maybe drip-feeded money, or you've had to ask for money and had to go and cap in hand, going, can I please have this? I need to get this for the children. If you find out, oh, wait, if I do this, the lawyers told me, then this is going to happen. And then you see your vision board and you're like, sweet, that's going to happen. So it can be more motivating
to know exactly
where you stand. But also, it's just the fear of the unknown. And I think a lot of people just hold back because they don't know what's what. And there is a lot of myths out there that people go, oh, you can't, it's my business, it's in my name. Or the other great one, oh, there's a trust, I've put all my money in a trust, so you can't touch it. Yeah. All of these things, you need to go check with a lawyer and go, okay, just because you didn't earn the money doesn't mean you're not entitled to it. If you've been in like a 35-year marriage or even a 10-year marriage, all of these myths that float around that kind of keep, in particular, women down, this is the time for you to go out and find your information and know your truth.
You don't listen to Tracy at work or someone else because everyone's situation is different. And for our male listeners, and I know we have a few, don't listen to all the horror stories you hear from other males, and the men's group peddle horror stories as well, and that creates more of a fear. I mean, generally, I'm sticking my neck out here, but in my years and years of experience, generally the court is fairly common sense based, and if it seems like sensible to you, then it probably is how the law would operate. But go and find out how the law applies to your situation from someone who actually knows.
Yeah. Yeah, don't just assume you know.
No,
because
you don't.
It is a bizarre thing. Even when I went through my own divorce, I assumed, oh, okay, this must be how this works. Oh, no, it's not. Oh, okay. So there's, and I think I'm a very intelligent person.
You are.
So, if you don't know the law, it's time to go talk to someone
Isn't
who
that
does.
how the podcast started, Laura, when you said one day to me, Mum, how do women go who haven't got a mother who's an accredited family law specialist? And that was your idea.
That's why we do it.
For the podcast.
That's right. And I think if you can figure out where you stand and know where you stand, and I know a lot of listeners have written in and said, thank you so much, I now get it, I know what we're going through. Great. And even better, go and see a lawyer for free 20 minutes or a 30-minute consult. Negotiate the price before you go.
So it's a fixed price. Or phone them for free.
A fixed price. And then once you've done that, so you've got a more clear vision of so you've got your vision of you moving on, having a house, or getting your car, just getting unstuck from this, getting financially stable. Then you find out what you're entitled to from your lawyer. The next step and the step that you need to keep taking over and over again is making a plan.
And follow through.
And doing it. Whether you do it by yourself, whether you do it with a lawyer, whether you do it with a bit of a lawyer and a bit of it yourself, but you've got to just start.
And once you've started that plan and begun to follow through, you will find things where you get a bit stuck, particularly if you haven't been dead keen to get started in the first place. So watch out for them. They're little booby traps to slow you down. But just go back to point one. make a priority to focus on it. If it's one little issue or something, again, set another time next week. Work out what your obstacle is. Is it you don't like filling in documents? Is it you don't know how to format something? Is it whatever it is, don't know how to approach the other person, and work your way through it. And keep going, and then make a plan. And like I said, rinse and repeat until you've got through all of your issues. You'll feel so good, and it will build momentum as you go.
Well, look, if you get a lawyer, then they will take it on board for you as well and move it forward. If you go into the court system, the court, like Mum always talks about, is a conveyor belt, and you'll just keep trundling along that conveyor belt. It kind of, once you get that started, it's a lot harder to just stall. So if you are currently stuck in a divorce limbo, whether it's because you want to be, or whether it's because your ex wants to be, or whatever the reason is, it's really important that you think about the reality that you're causing for later, and that is maybe you're going to have to, untangle even more property. Maybe you're going to have to deal with drama in the future. So focus on it. Make it a priority for the day. Find out your pain points. Write down what you want to happen. Have a vision board. Try and motivate yourself. And then find out where you stand, and then make that plan. And of course, you can use our DIY divorce blueprint if you are interested. But you can just figure out a lot of this yourself if you see a lawyer and at least know where you stand. That's the stepping stone to get started. And if you are listening today and you have been in limbo for a while, this is your message from the universe.
Don't wait for the new year. I see so many people in January, people have been separated for years. Don't wait till the new year to make that a resolution. Get started. Yeah, totally. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Mum, for your time, and my heart goes out to anybody who's in divorce limbo right now, because it is terribly unpleasant to have an uncertain future, but we're wishing you all the best, and we're always here. You can always listen to our podcasts, and we will talk to you again soon. Thank you, Mum, for your time. No worries, Laura. See you soon. Bye-bye, everyone.
If you found this podcast helpful, we'd love it if you could rate, review and subscribe. By doing so, you are spreading the word to help someone else just like you. Lynn would like to remind you that this podcast is general advice only, and you should always get legal advice in relation to your particular situation. And remember that the Australian laws may have changed since recording.